All right, well, our next health question is from Letty to Kane, and they say, I have a one-sided headache and it affects my one side, the left side. I've consulted a physician and I'm still on medication for about a year and I'm not feeling any better. I want to know what the problem could be. So let's talk about this, and then I want to talk about headaches in general because a lot of people are asking about headaches on our Facebook page. So let's talk about Letty's problem first. What's going on with it?
She's describing what sounds like a unilateral, in other words, one side of the body, but she describes the whole body being affected, and that indirectly we refer to as hemiplegia. So there is a familial headache, which is part of the migraine cluster of headaches, which is called a familial hemiplegic migraine. And quite clearly that could be quite debilitating because it could take quite a few hours and even a day or two to resolve the sensory symptoms when the headache is actually stopped and arrested. You could have, along with that, even motor symptoms of weakness on that side that looks like a stroke, for example, but it's actually part of the migraine, which when it resolves disappears completely. Difficult to treat, and often they are in need of definitely preventative therapy if the frequency of those headaches becomes a problem.
What does preventative therapy entail?
So for migraines in general, preventative therapy would involve you taking medication, being compliant firstly. With medication, we have a group of drugs called the beta blockers, which work for only about 10% of migraine sufferers. The rest, the other 90%,
what are they going to do?
They normally have to go on to drugs like sodium valproate or topiramate to prevent the actual migraine occurring and decrease the frequency and intensity of them. So we don't take that decision lightly to place someone on preventative therapy, because they need to obviously have enough headaches in a month to warrant taking drugs, because drugs have side effects, and both the drugs I've mentioned do have side effects. So the risk-benefit ratio needs to be considered thoroughly before commencing preventative therapy for migraine.
I'm glad I don't suffer from migraines because they sound absolutely terrible when people complain about them.
No, definitely. I mean, you have sufferers that are basically taken out of the workplace for a full day or two. And also it's very dependent on when you start treating it. And people that know the syndrome know that the sooner you start treating it, the less likely you are to let it last a few days and to counter it quite early. So very important. Once you end the migraine itself, and it's really, really severe, and it's been going for more than 24 hours, that's called status migrainosus, and very difficult. You often, if they don't respond to simple analgesics and anti-inflammatories, we need to admit those patients, put them on IVs over a period of 6 hours, and then review them, etc.
Wow. So that's migraines. Now, a lot of people, like I mentioned before, bringing up headaches on the Facebook page. One person asked, can a headache lead to death? But I mean,
it's certainly,
quite an extreme question.
Indeed.
I guess my question is, what I gather from that is, when should you consult a doctor about a headache? When does a regular headache that you get at work become an issue?
I think when you're having persistent headaches, in other words, if the frequency of your headaches are becoming daily headaches, for example, that are associated with other symptoms, things like nausea, things like visual disturbance, by that I mean things like blurred vision or even double vision, etc., things like vomiting. But besides all that, the headache and pain in general always tells you something. It tells you that something's not in sync, and we need to start listening to our bodies. The causes of headaches in general are so diverse, ranging from insomnia through to dehydration, and then obviously hormone withdrawal headaches. One of the most common missed headaches is a caffeine withdrawal headache, and typically occurs on weekends because we're used to consuming cups and cups of coffee at work.
Caffeine withdrawal, that's interesting.
Yes, caffeine withdrawal. And you then on the weekend wonder, but why am I getting these acute attacks while I'm at home? Because at the office, there's a filter machine and free coffee, and everyone's pouring coffee. So you often end up with people, complaining on weekends, and they don't know what the cause is. And then, of course, our stressful lifestyles that are rushed, and basically we have then increased tension in the muscles, the speak of in the neck, etc. And all that contributes to the different headache syndromes, and there are quite a few.